talk last week about the baton passing from North Melbourne ruckman, or Max Gawn to North Melbourne ruckman Tristan Cherry. Did the baton pass in the middle today between Petrarca and Oliver to Matt Riel, to your man?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they just couldn't handle him. He was too physical, he was too tough, and I just think we've seen the end of an era with this Melbourne midfield. There's no doubt about that. Round 1, minus 12 clearances. Round 2 against the Kangaroos, minus 12. And today, minus 16. They will be the worst midfield in the competition on clearance numbers by the end of this round.
Wow.
There's no doubt about that. Against the Kangaroos, they gave up 59 points, which is their worst result for 5 years. And today, they give up 56. It's no longer a midfield that has that fear factor. You don't really have to plan against them anymore. You just go to work and you go to war, because you know if you're harder for longer, you'll get them.
I think the pure clearances as well as the centre bounce, and with Max Gawn, you'd think they'd continually have that centre bounce dominance. They went down by 8 today. Yeah, Matt Riel had 9 of them, but they've gone down 8 in the middle, and that's very un-Melbourne-like, or when Melbourne are absolutely flying.
So if the curtain has just come down on Melbourne, if this is an end of an era, as you're saying, will it be an underachievement? Is it a waste of talent? In 2021, we were talking about these guys like they were the next big thing. They got one flag, you won free, Jack. Well, could this haunt them if they bow out this year?
I don't know whether the curtain's coming down on them. I think they need to reinvent themselves pretty fast. So we saw Harvey Langford today. He's had a massive impact in the middle, and at some point in time, they've got to go, well, he's one that is attending every single centre bounce stoppage that we have. He gives us something different. Now, they're missing Isaiah Pickett at the moment. He gives them a little bit of zip around there as well. But you look at Jack Viney, can he reinvent himself, flip it to the other side? And Took Miller's reinvented himself at half forward for the Gold Coast Suns. Can Jack Viney do that and allow some of these young stars to come in and actually maybe potentially reignite Melbourne? But it's a fine line for Simon Goodwin and his team at the moment.
I think it's more than that. I think it's a message to the group that Langford can come in and have 6 clearances and dominate for this midfield. At the end of the game, Gawn has 1, Petrarca has 1, Oliver has 5. And Oliver is so gettable in the middle. I mean, we could show vision of Christian today that would just be cruel, really. There's no need to show it, but I just look at this midfield up against the young Kangaroos midfield last week that's been building, and this midfield here. Everyone's waiting for the Suns to do something like this, and this is just a message to the competition. We're playing finals, and we might be going a bit further than that.
And they had to do it today, didn't they? Because they're not returning to the MCG for the rest of the home and away season. So big tick for Damien Hardwick and the Gold Coast Suns. What's the conversation around Melbourne tonight? They're 0-3, a 59-point loss last week, 58 points today. You said earlier, Kingy, that it's an end of an era for this Melbourne midfield. Do you stand by that?
Yeah, I just don't think that they have the fear factor anymore. I think once you start to look gettable and you lose that edge, I mean, Melbourne's success has been built off the middle 4 names. Gawn, Viney, Petrarca and Oliver. And they've done all the damage. Bang, bang, bang. It still sits in my mind the way they destroyed the Dogs in that final, particularly out of the middle. They know. I look at these players, I just don't think they're as... It's not that they are not committed, but it's just not the same level that it's been. It's just not with the same anger and ferocity that it had 2 to 3 years ago. And when you start losing, all the other warts get exposed. They've carried such a load, these guys. It just looks like it's got on top of them. And right now, across the 3 games, they've been minus 12 clearances, minus 16. They've never been more gettable than what they are right now.
So you're doubting that they can get back to 2021, bang, bang, bang? You're saying it's an end of an era?
The midfield, yeah. It's a rebuild of sorts, or a reset of sorts. They threw Langford in there, who went crazy and was their best clearance player today. So there's a shift that needs to happen. They know all this. There's a reason why they've been so open with us, is because they can see what's coming and they're getting ahead of it.
I don't think you can have Oliver, Viney and Petrarca in the same centre bounce anymore going forward. You need someone in there, and today it was Langford. He's a trump card they need to have in there. When Cozzy Pickett comes back as well, they need that little bit of difference in there. They need to blood their youth as well. Caleb Windsor, we know, is injured at the moment. He's another one that could start to attend centre bounce of mine, but I just don't think that those 3 in at the same time is the future going forward for Melbourne.
If you start to move them out of the centre square, then what does Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca think about their futures? We saw this vulnerability late last year. Will we see these cracks exposed? Simon Goodwin in the press conference said it was the method that was the problem, and they employed 2 new midfield coaches in Nathan Jones and Sam Radford, so there's been considerable change around that. Simon Goodwin needs to get them going, and that's against Geelong next week, which isn't going to be easy, but this pressure is going to start to build. But at what point is there a list shake-up here? Like, so, you know, they won a flag on Gawn, May, Lever, Oliver, Petrarca. How many of these potentially could we be seeing moving on from the Melbourne Football Club? If this is what they're going to serve up this year, maybe they do need some change. Maybe they do need some refresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who would be most vulnerable, do you think?
Well, there's a risk in that, isn't there? It's got to be the players with some cachet. There's got to be some players that are going to give you those high draft picks you're seeking. Everything that happens in footy is built off high draft picks. And I just think that Melbourne will recognise this, they'll know this, and they'll challenge these players. If you're not 100% committed, we've got to go past you. They played a few young players today, so we've got to give them some grace. Windsor's not there. Johnson has played, 1 or 2 games. Langford the same. Henderson. Lindsay, who got injured today, the same. So they are evolving, but the challenge now is how quick and how do you want to step forward of this? Do you want to be aggressive and say to Christian Petrarca, how are we going here? Are we done here? Say the same to Clayton Oliver. Are we still charging on like we once were? Or are we done here?
Pickett wants to get to Fremantle. Yeah. There's another one. What about Goody's role on this? Simon Goodwin is contracted for another year. The pressure will build. They're coming off consecutive thrashings. Jack, is he a story here, do you think?
Oh, look, not at the moment, I don't think. He's got the backing of the 2021 premiership, so I think that always sits there. So he's won a premiership, but he would be looking at the list and be looking at the future of certain players. For me, it's glaringly obvious they need to go and get a key forward. Yep. They need to figure out...
It's not a key forward issue, though, today.
No, they need a number 1 banana. They need to address that part of their game for them to build, to grow forward. Now, whether there's zero cohesion between their midfield and their forwards at the moment, I'm looking at that key forward market and thinking, if I'm Melbourne, you're going to have to give something up to get one. Yeah. What is it?
But they said after last week, judge us on next week. Yep. The response. They talked about the response. Well, the response was another 10-goal loss to the Suns, who don't win away from home.
I think there's a lot riding on this game against Geelong on Friday night. The whole country, the whole game's watching. They have to serve up. They got smashed by North Melbourne. That was putrid today. They can't have the hat-trick.
Let's hear what Simon Goodwin had to say post-game.
We've got to get to work. We acknowledge we've probably got too many players at the moment that aren't in the form that they need to be in, and that's everyone. That's, as coaches, we need to fix that. We need to help them. We need to get them in form, and that's the first step to fixing your fundamentals. You could see, just the basics of the game weren't to the standard required. We've got our challenges, and I think at every stage, at every part of the season, you're going to have some challenges at certain times. We're having ours early, but as I said, I've got belief in this group. I've got belief in everything that we're capable of, and you're not seeing it now, and our supporters will be disappointed, and I acknowledge that they would be disappointed with where we sit right now. But we've got unwavering belief in what we're capable of, and we're going to go after delivering it, and we're going to work hard as a club, and we're going to get ourselves back going.
So similar messaging from Simon Goodwin tonight, but all eyes, as you said, Jay, will be on them Friday night footy against Geelong at GMHBA Stadium.